You're all silence. Swami, I am restless. You're all silence. I am restless. You are all silence. Who calls himself restless? Where is his restlessness? My mind is restless. Alright? Your mind is restless, okay? Why do you call yourself restless? Just because in the cinema movie, that fellow is weeping. Why are you weeping? Oh, because I lost all my money. Who has lost the money? That fellow has lost it. And therefore, why are you weeping? But still, that sympathetic weeping, and that kind of a thing, we do anyhow. And therefore, even that experience doesn't make sense, or that experience is not there, or there is no reason for that experience. So there can be three grounds on which adhyasa is rejected. Says here, what is the Siddhanti going to say is what Purnanandya tells us in brief. Atmanatmanoho vastavaikhyado yukti abhavadeva anubho siddha adhyasa apalape anubho siddha ghatadi padathanam apalapa prasanga tathaja shunyamata pravesha syadityatah anubho siddhatvad vastavaikya bhavevi samagri sattvacha अध्यास अस्ति इति विषयादि संभवेन शास्त्रारंभ युक्त इति सिद्धान्तयितुं पूर्वपक्ष से दौर्बल्यं विवृणोति तथा इति सिंस आत्मानात्मनोः वास्तव ऐक्यादौ आदि मीन्स तादात्म्य अगेन सिंस आत्मानात्मनोः वास्तव ऐक्यादौ युक्ति अभावात् एव just because it doesn't make sense, just because it is not reasonable that atma and anatma may be identical, or atma and atma may be, there may be tadatmya or oneness between them, yukti abhavadeva, just because it doesn't make sense or it is not reasonable, not logical, anubho siddha adhyasa apalape, therefore you are willing to reject that adhyasa which you are experiencing anyway. I do experience aham karta, aham sukhi, aham dukhi. It is a matter of experience. When we inquire who is experiencing, the adhyasa will be proven to be wrong, but it is a matter of experience that I am happy and unhappy, I am a samsari, I am dukhi, I am born, I am dying. And so, you are willing to reject something that is a matter of direct experience just because it is not logical. So, on the ground that adhyasa is not logical, if you are willing to reject something that is directly experienced, then you will reject everything that doesn't make sense and directly experience. I am ghata. This ghata also you cannot explain, suppose. So, if you can reject something that is directly perceived or experienced, then the whole world which is perceived or experienced also will have to be rejected as nasti. Anubho siddha ghatadi padarthanam apalapa prasanga. Apalapa means what? Negation. Or if you reject this adhyasa, you will reject everything that also you are experiencing, namely ghatapata, the whole creation is nasti, is not there. Then what? Shunyamata pravesha. Then you are entering the shunyamata, that there is nothing at all. Because it doesn't make sense, therefore it is not there. In that case, you are coming to shunyamata. Ityatah anubho siddhatvat. Therefore, you do not realize the consequences of your stand. You think that you want to prove the validity of Purva Mimamsa or something. On the other hand, you are proving validity of some shunyavadis. Earlier, by saying that aham sfurami, so by proving that to be valid, aham naraha became valid. Because if one thing is right, everything becomes right. And similarly here also, you are in fact justifying the validity of shunyavadis. Ityatah, therefore we have to say that, anubho siddhatvat. Since adhyasa is a matter of experience, vastava aikya bhavepi, it is true that real oneness or identity between atma and anatma is not possible, still samagri sattvat, still karana is there. Even though vastava aikya may not be there, and still the samagri is there for adhyasa, so we will show how adhyasa samagri is there, even though the real oneness or identity is not there. So karana also is there, and pratiti also is there, even though yukti is not there. Adhyasa asti. And therefore the point is, since there is an experience of adhyasa, and we will show that samagri of the adhyasa also is there, therefore adhyasa asti. That's what the Siddhanta is now going to show, that adhyasa is iti vishayadi sambhavena. And there once you prove adhyasa, vishaya prayojanam, that anubandha chatushtaya, a different adhikari also is proven. Vishayadi sambhavena शास्त्रारंभः युक्तः इति सिद्धान्तयितुम्. Therefore विषय आरंभ विषयादि, so विषयादि संभवेन शास्त्रारंभः युक्तः. That shastra must be studied. इति सिद्धान्तयितुम्. This is सिद्धान्त. पूर्वपक्षस्य दौर्बल्यं विवृणोति. That defect or the weak point of the Purvapaksha is now being elaborated here by the Siddhantin. He is taking into task, cross-examining. Why do you say Adhyasa is not there? Because it is not logical, or because you don't experience it, or because the Samagri is not there. Adhyah Ishtaha. If you say Adhyasa is not logical, Ishtapattihi. We also say that. Adhyasa, bondage, is not logical, is not reasonable, doesn't make sense. We also accept it. How is it? Tathapi. Next sentence of Bhashyakara is Tathapi. Mithyayati bhavidam yuktam yadyapi Tathapi. Etat anurodhat adau yadyapi iti pashitavyam. Bhashyakara doesn't write yadyapi. Yadyapi yushmad asmat pratyaya gocharayoho. If Bhashyakara had written, then Mangalacharanam would not have been there. Yadyapi. But yushmad asmat pratyaya gocharayoho. So yadyapi need not write if it can be understood. So by Tathapi, Yadyapi is understood, at least by the people who know the language and everything. Therefore, you need not write that extra word if it can be understood. So, Bhashyakara chooses not to write that word, but is implied. That is a adhyahara of that word when it is said tathapi, even then. So, even though and even then. So, Yadyapi means even though this is a sin, still, tathapi means still, we do find adhyasa. And therefore, even though you are not able to explain it, it is a matter of experience, and therefore we will have to understand the experience in some way. You cannot dismiss experience. You can't insist that you are not experiencing restlessness or unhappiness. You can't say that. If you say that, then the person also feels that, okay, I am rejected. You see, when you reject somebody's opinion, you reject the person also. So you cannot reject something that a person is experiencing. You have to explain that experience. So we have to explain the world. When you explain the experience, not reject it, kuch hai nahi. You can't say nothing is there. So whatever we are experiencing, we have to explain it. And so, tathapi, even then, this is what we find. But before proceeding now, the Ratnaprabha wants to, he wants to now show how the content of the Purvapakshi is not on solid ground. Adhyasasya असंग स्व प्रकाश आत्मनि उक्तत्वम अलंकार इति भावः. So this is alankara. In fact, it is a bhushanam. There are those fellows say there is dushanam, and we say it is alankara. What happens is there is a book called Shata Dushani. This Dvaita Acharyas, there is a book which is Shata Dushani. They found 100 faults in the theory of Vedanta, 100 faults, and said, so all the Dvaita Acharyas, Ramanuja and others also, have shown so many logical defects in Shankaracharya, of all the people. And thus they have come up with what we call Shatadushani. There are 100 faults. Then a Vedantin wrote a book, Shatabhushani, that all those 100 faults are actually Bhushanam. That adhyasa doesn't make sense, bondage doesn't make sense, world doesn't make sense in Atma, all of that is actually a glory of the Atma, and we do not see as a defect. That's what he said. Adhyasasya asanga swaprakash atmani. Atma is asanga, therefore adhyasa is not possible. Swaprakash, and so sve mahimni tishtati, it always abides in its own glory. In that Atma, adhyasa or superimposition is not possible. Ayuktatvam alankara. That is in fact the bhushan of Atma. The Atma is not affected by anything. That's a bhushan. That in spite of my saying that I am unhappy, in spite of my saying that I am dukhi, etc., I am not dukhi. Even when the 10th man thinks that the 10th man is lost, and even when he is searching for the 10th man, in fact the 10th man is not lost. And similarly also, even when I find myself unhappy or miserable, I am not. That is the glory of Atma. That otherwise poor Atma, had it been Sangi, is a Sangha, and therefore the attributes of the Upadhi do not in any way affect it. But if Atma could come in contact, real contact, then what would happen? Then Atma actually would become Dukhi, etc. In that case, you will have to do something with Atma. But no, Atma remains unaffected in every way. And that is in fact the glory of Atma, that it can appear as Dukhi without being Dukhi. It is the glory of the robe that can appear as snake without becoming snake. Now you have to insist that there is a snake, either you insist that I know you don't see snake. Or some fellow says the rope has become snake. Both of them are wrong. You cannot insist that I don't see snake, but I see you. Don't you see my perspiration? See my, this pulse and things like that. It's evident that he sees a snake. So because there is this blood pressure and fear, etc., therefore you accept that he sees a snake. You can't say that you don't see the snake. At the same time, we cannot also say that there is a real snake. So we have to explain his experience. Without accepting the reality of the snake, we still have to explain his experience of feeling this palpation, etc. And that's what Vedantin has to do. So, because he feels the fear, so we don't say that he does not see snake. But because he claims that he sees a snake, doesn't mean that we will accept the snake also. So we will now analyze his claim of seeing the snake and show that he is committing an error. This is how the Vedantin will proceed, and we'll take up the subsequent discussion tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharya Karashyata Shabdascha Dvavetau Brahma Pura Kantham Bhitva Viniryatau Tasman Mangalika Bhubhau. Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Tasmat Pratyay Gocharayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tamah Prakashavad Viruddha Swabhayoho Itaretara Bhavanupatau Siddhayam Tadharmanam api sūtram Itaretara Bhavanupattihi Nityataha Smat Pratyay Gochare Vishayini Chidatmake Yushmat Pratyay Gocharasya Vishayasya Tadharmanam Chadhyasah Tadviparyayena Vishayinah Tadharmanam Vishaye Adhyaso Mithya Bhavitum Mithyed Bhavitum Yuktam Tathapi Anyonyasmin Anyonyatmakatam Anyonyadharmamscha Adhyasya Itaretara Avivekena Atyanta Viviktayoho Dharma Dharminoho Mithya Jnana Nimittaha Satyanrute Mithuni Kritya Ahamidam Mamedam Iti Naisargikoyam Lokavyavaharaha Tathapi Mithyed Bhavitum Yuktam, even though the adhyasa cannot be there. And here the Puru Pakshi takes the stand of Vedantin that Nirguna Brahmatmatva Mate. Vedanta Mata is Atma is Nirguna Brahma. From that standpoint, there is no way that just adhyasa can be justified. It's just not logical, not reasonable that adhyasa can be there, because adhyasa samagri is not there. Itaretara, because Paraspara Viruddha Swabhavayoho, both of them are mutually exclusive, and therefore there is no samagri for adhyasa between Atma and Anatma. or Atma Dharma and Anatma Dharma upon the other is not possible. So, logically it is said that Adhyasa is not possible. This is Purva Paksha as well as Siddhanta. So, Siddhanta also says it is not logical or reasonable for Adhyasa to be there. Except that Purva Pakshi says that since it is not logical, Adhyasa cannot be there. And therefore, the kind of sense that we have that I am a Karta, I am Bhokta, that it is a Prama, meaning it is something real and not Brahma. If there is Adhyasa, then Aham Karta, I am a doer becomes Brahma, becomes a delusion. If on the other hand Adhyasa is not there, then Aham Karta becomes Prama, and that would make a lot of difference. So the point here is whether Aham Karta, Aham Jivaha, Aham Agniha, Aham Samsari, whether it is Prama or Brahma. Everyone believes that it is Prama. It is true. And therefore there is an attempt on the part of people to eliminate that Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam, which is Samsara. Vedanta says no, it is Brahma. Why? Because there is Adhyasa. But you say that Adhyasa is not logical, so it is not logical. Tathapi, still it is there, however. Anyonyasmin, Anyonyatmakatam, Anyonya Dharmamsya Adhyasya, Anyonyasmin, upon each other. Anyonyatmakatam, Adhyasya, superimposing the nature of each other upon each upon the other. Like the iron and fire superimpose each other's nature. So iron imparts that roundness and the fire imparts the heat and the color to the iron. And similarly also upon Atma there is superimposition of Anatma. And because what is Anatma? Anatma is mortal, ignorant, limited. So upon the Atma there is superimposition of mortality, ignorance, sense of limitation. And upon Anatma there is superimposition of the Dharma of the Atma. What is Atma Dharma? Satchidananda. And therefore Sat means real. So this body or Anatma is taken to be real. Chit means conscious. This body is taken to be conscious. Ananda means happiness. Body is taken to be source of happiness. And so Anyonyasmin, Anyonyatmakatam, Anyonya Dharmamsya Adhyasya. And also Dharma of each other, each is also superimposed upon the other. In fact, that what we experience is Dharma Adhyasa. But Dharma Adhyasa cannot be unless Dharmi Adhyasa is there. And therefore, of course, when I say I am the body, then it is body that is taken to be I, and so there is Adhyasa between two Dharmis, I and body. When I say I am fat, I am lean, I am man, in that case that fat, lean, etc. are the attributes of the body which are superimposed upon the I. So that is Adhyasa of the Dharma of the Anatma upon the Atma. So Anyonyasmin, Anyonyatmakatam, Anyonya Dharmamsya Adhyasya. This is what we find people doing. Why? Itaretara avivekena. On account of aviveka, on account of lack of discrimination or lack of being able to separate the two. Even though the two are quite different, Atyanda Viviktayoho, Dharma Dharminoho, Mithya Ajnana Nimittam. So, Nimittaha. So, in fact, this Dharma and the Atyanda Viviktayoho, Vivikta means those which are totally distinct. Atyanda Viviktayoho, Dharma Dharminoho. So, Mithya Jnana Nimittaha Adhyasaha. This Adhyasa is Mithya Jnana Nimittaha. On account of false knowledge. So, knowledge which is false or Brahma. So, on account of Brahma, that is Adhyasa. Where we are not able to distinguish the two elements which are the two principles which are totally different in nature. On account of failure to be able to distinguish between the two principles which are totally opposed to each other in nature. Itaratar avivekena, and mixing up these two, there is Adhyasa or superimposition of Atma upon Anatma, Atma Dharma upon Anatma, Anatma upon Atma, Anatma Dharma upon Atma. Satyanate Mithuni Kritya. That Adhyasa is given in explanation here. What does a person accomplish? So what is it that we accomplish? Satyanate Mithuni Kritya. Satya and Anrutam. The one is real, one is false. Mithuni Kritya. Mithuni Kritya, mixing up totally. So totally mixing up the real with the unreal. And then what's the product of the adhyasa? Ahamidam, mamaidam, ahamidam shariram, this sharira I am. Or mamaidam shariram, this body is mine. Sometimes I call the body as I, sometimes I call it as mine. So this ahankara and mamakara is the direct product of adhyasa, which involves satyanuta mithunikaranam. In aham shariram, aham is satya and shariram is anrutam. That is mithunikaranam. So I have totally managed to mix up the two, satya and anruta. And therefore arises this concept, aham idam, mama idam. I am this or I am this much alone and this is mine. So, iti naisargikoyam. Has somebody made an attempt for this? Naisargikoyam loka vyavahara. We find this loka vyavahara. People in fact claiming to be. Vyavahara also means shabda prayog. Ahamidam, mamaidam. I am this and this is mine. This kind of expression we find from the people. Or we find people conducting themselves in this manner. As though I am the body. That's how I find myself conducting. Or I find people conducting themselves as though they are the body. So even though there may not be a very clear expression that I am the body, definitely my behavior reveals this fact that I take myself to the body. And so, naisargikoyam loka vyavahara. I am means something that is very evident. I am loka vyavahara. This vyavahara of the people, the transaction of people, the behavior of the people reveals this adhyasa. Ahamidam, mamaidam. So I am is something that is very evident. This evident loka vyavahara reveals adhyasa. So this is the establishment, this is the observation of adhyasa, establishment of adhyasa. First sentence negated the logicality or tenability of adhyasa. Second sentence asserts the experience of adhyasa. We also do not say that adhyasa makes sense or that it can be there. It cannot be there. We also say that, however, we find it to be there. That's all. And so, coming back to page 29, तथाहि so पूर्वपक्षस्य दुर्बलत्वं सूचयति युक्तग्रहणात् मिथ्येति भवितुं युक्तम्. So that adhyasa should not be there. It is proper that the adhyasa of Atma upon Anatma etc. should not be there. It is proper. But then not that everything in the world is proper. And so there could be something improper. And therefore adhyasa could be there. So then it is proper that adhyasa should not be. That word proper shows durbalatvam. Then the Purvapaksha doesn't have a great strength. Therefore we ask him question, Tathahi kim adhyasasya nastitvam ayuktatvad abhanadva karana abhavadva. When you say that adhyasa cannot be there, is it because ayuktatvad, because it is not logical, because yukti is not there, or abhanadva, or because you don't experience adhyasa, karana abhavadva, or because you say that adhyasa samagri is not there. Samagri is karana samudaya. That samagri, all the required ingredients for adhyasa are not there. Is it worth saying adhyasa cannot be? We are going to say, show that even though adhyasa is not logical, we do experience it. At the same time, there is samagri, all the necessary ingredients for adhyasa to take place. That will be the burden of the next discussion. In that, so many other things are also discussed, and so we learn a lot of things about life in this manner also. Adhya ishtaha ityaha tathapi. It is true that adhyasa is not logical, that is ishtaha. That is something that is desirable by us also. We also like it. Etat anurodhat adau yadyapi pasitavyam. So since Vashyakara says tathapi anyonyasmin anyonyatmakatam, therefore yadyapi also, because tathapi always in pair with yadyapi, even though. Adau pasitavyam. Adau means what? Yushmadasmad ityadi bhashyasya adau. So yadyapi yushmadasmat pratyagocarayoho etc. This is how yadyapi must come right in the beginning. अध्यासस्य असंग स्वप्रकाशात्मनि ayuktvatvam alankara iti bhava. Yadyapi shows also. So when you say yadyapi, that even though it is not possible, and still adhyasa is there, that adhyasa is not possible is a glory for the Atma. Adhyasasya asanga swaprakasha atmani. Atma is asanga and swaprakasha. So swaprakasha shows Atma is chidatma. Asanga shows that it is unconnected with anything. And therefore these two attributes or these two words themselves show that adhyasa is not possible. Ayuktatvam alankara. That adhyasa is not tenable in Atma, which is asanga and swaprakasha, is a bhushanam, is a decoration, is a glory of Atma, that adhyasa cannot be. But nadvitiya, you cannot say abhanadva, you cannot say adhyasa is not experienced. Even though adhyasa is not logical, you cannot say it is not experienced. And so, now the Tikakara says ayamiti, skipping all the earlier words in the whole sentence. So ahamidam mamedamiti naisargikoyam lokavyavahara. Naisargikaha ayam lokavyavahara. Ayam means this evident lokavyavahara. The people's usage of expressions and people's behavioral pattern itself reveals this naisargikaha, natural adhyasa. Naisargika means unnatural, uncreated. Nobody has thought and then determined that I am the body. So that doesn't require any predetermination of meditation or any education. Without being educated, this adhyasa is there. So arthakramasya patakrama apekshaya prabalatvat arthakramam anusrutya kramena padani avatarayati. Even though Bhashyakara says, I am lokavyavahara, the end of the sentence, it should have been said to begin with, I am lokavyavahara, meaning that this adhyasa is evident. So Tikakara stakes the arthakrama. There is a sequence of artha and sequence of patha. Means the words are placed in a certain sequence, but the meaning should rather be in a different sequence. Occasionally it happens. In which case, sometimes we take the arthakrama, meaning a sequence that is proper with reference to the meaning. Ayamiti, ayam means what? Pratyakshatmaka anubhav siddha ityartha. This adhyasa is anubhav siddha. Pratyakshatmaka, meaning it is something evident, it is something perceived. Anubhavat, anubhava vishaya, anubhav siddha, something that is a matter of experience, established by anubhava. Ayamiti anenaiva dvitiya kalpa pariharo drashtavya. So when the Bhashyakara uses the expression here, tathapi, there is a parihara, there is a negation or a futile of the first position, and when Bhashyakara uses word ayam lokavyavahara, that this adhyasa is evident, then it is said that you cannot say that adhyasa is not a matter of experience because it is a matter of experience of everyone that there is adhyasa. Says Ratnaprabha, Ajñah karta manusyohamiti pratyaksha anubhavat adhyasasya abhanam asiddham ityartha. What is I am? What is evident adhyasa? Ajñah, fellows, I am ignorant. Kartaham, I am the agent of action, I am the doer. Manusyoham, I am a man, or I am a human being. When one says, it is pratyaksha anubhava. This is pratyaksha anubhava. This is a direct experience, perceptible experience, intimate experience. Pratyaksha also means aparoksha. Pratyaksha means sakshi bhasya or indriya bhasya, sakshi bhasya experience. Everyone directly experiences this. Adhyasasya abhanam asiddham. That adhyasa is not a matter of experience, cannot be established because adhyasa is a matter of experience. Sakshi rupa pratyaksha anubhava vishayatvad ityartha. So adhyasa is not something that you see through your sense organs. Adhyasa is something that you see in your own mind. So sakshi bhasya. Aham ajñah ityadi vrittirupasya anubhavasya brahmaswarupatvad adhyasah siddha. That I am ignorant, that I am a human being, that I am karta, I am bhokta. These are all nature of vritti. They are all thoughts or these are all ideas. I am ignorant is an idea. I am a man is an idea. I am happy is an idea. Or vrittis. All these are ideas or vrittis are there. Which vrittis are directly revealed or illuminated by the Sakshi, by the Atma, by the witness. So there is this Sakshi Bhasyatvam. And what happens is, that which is Sakshi Bhasyatvam, you cannot avoid. If there is something Indriya Bhasyatvam, then perhaps you may not know. If there is something which is illuminated by eyes and ears, etc., quite possible that you may not come to know, unless it is revealed by the Indriya. But that which is Sakshi Bhasyam, meaning that is evident to the witness, you will know whether you like it or not. Because you can't escape. When a thought occurs, you cannot escape knowing the thought. When a person comes, you can escape knowing the person by closing your eyes or by, being busy elsewhere. But when a thought occurs, you cannot escape knowing it because thought is something that is directly illuminated by the witness. Siddhe vritti swarupe adhyase sakshyatmaka bhana sattvat abhanam ayuktam vrittinam sakshi bhasyatva niyamadati bhavaha. Since the vritti or a thought occurs, it is sakshi bhasya, and therefore there is a rule that you will know when a thought occurs, whether you like it or not. Very often we wish that I don't like, I do not know my thoughts, but then you cannot avoid. And so these are the thoughts. I am ignorant, I am human, I am karta, I am happy. These are the thoughts, and these thoughts are of the nature of adhyas. That will be shown, because they contradict what the Upanishad says. Therefore they are Brahma, and it is something that is known directly to everyone, and therefore adhyasa is something that is of the matter of experience, direct experience. Somebody says Jivatmani kartritvatikam vastamameva. Somebody says, why do you say it is adhyasa? That I am ignorant, that I am a doer, that I am an enjoyer, that I am human. Why do you say it is adhyasa? Why do you say it is superimposition? Why not that it is real? Because that is also a matter of direct experience, then what is it? What you experience must be real. Then Ratnaprabha says, Nacha idam pratyaksham kartrutvado pramayati vachyam. So when you have this experience, I am karta, that I am an agent, then somebody says that proves the agency of the Atma, that actually Atma is karta. And so why don't you say that this experience that I am the karta is itself a proof that Atma is karta? So kartrutvado prama, it is true knowledge which reveals kartrutva of the sense of agency of the Atma. Why don't you say that? Idana vachyam, don't say that. Why? Apaurushayataya nirdoshena upakramaadalinga avadhrita tatparyena cha tattvamasi ityadi vakyena akartrutva brahmatva bodhanena asya brahmatva nischayat. Asya ahankarta iti vrittehe brahmatva nischayat. This vritti or this idea that I am karta or I am ignorant is Brahma. Why do you say it is Brahma? Because it contradicts what Upanishad says. Let Upanishad say something, I directly experience something, and your Upanishad says that I am suppose Upanishad says that I am Brahman, but I know that I am karta bhokta. Understand that this is how the first argument began. To go back to page 1, what was the reason for, not page 1 really, but then more or less. Say page 11 as a matter of fact. What is Samshaya? Page 11 of this book. Atra naham brahma iti bhedagrahi pratyakshena kartrutva akartruttvade viruddha dharmavatva lingaga anumanena cha virodhena brahmatmanoho aikyasya vishayasya asambhavat. What is the doubt? Doubt is who says that I am Brahma? Who says that what I think is wrong? I directly experience that I am Jiva, I am Karta, I am ignorant. It's my direct experience. And secondly, of course, we can also infer that Brahman and Jiva are totally contradictory in nature, and therefore there cannot be oneness between the two. And so that very same thing is being discussed here actually. There was inference, sap-pratipakshatvat. The idea is that this particular experience, that I am Karta, I am Bhokta, can be there either if it is true, or it can be there if it is a Brahma. So idea is that a thought can be there, or a notion can be there, or a concept can be there, because it is real or because it is a notion. So that is a snake. Can that pratyaya or cognition can be there, or conclusion can be there because there is really a snake, or I think there is a snake. So whether aham karta, is it a fact or is it something that is notion? So even though I directly experience myself with karta bhokta, Vedantin claims that it is a notion. Why is it a notion? Because Shruti or Upanishad, it contradicts what the Upanishad says. But suppose Upanishad says that, why not Upanishad be wrong and why not I be right? He says, no, your buddhi has certain problems. Which problems are not there in the Upanishad? This claim on your part that I am karta, I am bhokta, is a product of what? Purusha buddhi. Is a product of the human intellect, which is replete with all kinds of limitations, of ignorance, doubts, inadequacy, improper data, improper conclusions, improper interpretations. That's the problem with the intellect. While Vedas, Upanishads are the revelations of the intellect of the God, of the Lord, which is devoid or free from all these defects. Says apaurvashetaya nirdoshena. This Shruti is nirdosha, means devoid of all the doshas which are there in the human intellect. Purusha buddhi has all these defects. Otherwise, whatever we came to know 1,000 years ago should stand today also. But every 100 years we revise our theories. Certain theories are revised every 100 years, some are every 50 years, some every 10 years. Why? Because Purusha has limitation in buddhi. We experience something all right, but how to interpret that experience is always going to depend upon the limitation of my intellect. My perception being what it is, so my conclusions are going to be influenced by the limitations of my intellect. And so is the conclusion on my part. I am a jiva, I am sukhi, I am dukhi. Vedanta says, we are sorry. We are afraid that conclusion on your part also reflects limitations in your intellect rather than the truth. So, apaurushayataya nirdoshena Shruti Vakyena. So, Shruti Vakya or the statement of Shruti is nirdosha, devoid of any dosha or limitations because apaurushayataya. Since it is revealed by God and therefore not by Purusha means a human being or an individual. And also, well, just because Shruti says so what? Very often it happens that even the Shruti statements also do not have Tatparya in themselves, they have Tatparya in something else. That's called Arthavada. We have said it so many times. That even in Vedas also, Upanishads also, we come across so many statements which do not mean what they say, but they mean something else. As I said, the whole talk about the Srushti, the creation, etc., which is all there, there is no intention on the part of the Shruti to give reality to creation. Intention is ultimately to reveal only the oneness between Jiva and Brahma. So you cannot say that just because Shruti says or Upanishad says that it should be taken literally. Sometimes it doesn't have to be taken literally, and therefore Tattvamasi. Suppose Shruti says you are that thou art, you are Brahman. Then also maybe it doesn't mean what it says, it means something else. And that's what the Mimamsaka said. It says no. Upakramadelinga avadruta tatparyena. So this Shruti Vakya whose tatparya of the purport is avadruta, is ascertained by the linga. So upakramadi linga. So in order to arrive at the purport, as you said, the most important thing is tatparya. In understanding or interpreting any statement, either written or spoken, the most important is tatparya. Even the word meaning and everything else will be set aside by us if the tatparya overrules that. Tatparya means intention. So what is the intention of the part of the speaker? That's more important. There are so many problems are there. These politicians make statements and these newspapers will publish something. Next day that fellow says, I did not mean that. Because you said it. I may have said it. I did not mean that. Therefore, what I mean is more important than what I say. Or, what I say should be interpreted in respect to what I mean. And so, what is intended by the Shruti? How do we know what the Shruti intends? Or how do we know that what a person intends? To determine the intention, there is a method. That is called Upakramadi Linga. Says, Upakramopasamharo Abhyaso Apurvata Phalam Arthvado Vattija Lingam Tatpara Nirnayati Slokokta Upakramadi Padena Grahyam Upakramopasamharo Eva Lingam. The Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyasaha, Apurvata, Phalam. So these are all the linga, these are all the evidences which enables to determine the tatparya or the intention of the Shruti. So what is the introduction? What is the conclusion? Which theme is repeated again and again? And what is new that the Shruti is saying? And what's the phalam or the prayojanam? And what reasoning is given by the Shruti to justify the statements? And what is the arthavada? What theme is praised by the Shruti and what is condemned? So these are the linga or the evidences. The sixfold evidence enables us to ascertain the tatparya or the purport or the intention of the Shruti, of any text for that matter. So when we employ this criteria to determine what is the intention of the Shruti, what is tatparya of the Shruti, then also we come to know tatparya is what? Tattvamasi has swarthe tatparyam. That the word is what it says and not, it doesn't have intention of saying something else. So these two are very important adjectives pertaining to Shruti Vakya. Apaurushayataya nirdoshena and upakramaadilinga avadruta tatparyena cha. That's what the Tikakara says. Visheshanadvayena tattvamasyaadi vakyasya apramanya anyaparatvayoho nirasah kriyate. Visheshanadvayena. What is Visheshanadvayam? Apaurushayataya nirdoshena. So it is apaurushaya nirdosham and therefore it cannot be apramanam. Pramanam is a valid means of knowledge called pramanam. Pramakaranam, pramanam. What is pramanam? Valid means of knowledge. And pramanam is always nirdosham. Like my eyes, whatever knowledge they generate must be taken as real, because if the eyes are nirdosha, if the eyes have some kind of a defect, then the pramanam, that the knowledge that they produce will not necessarily be accepted by us. But when shall we accept the knowledge produced by eyes? When the eyes do not have any defect in them. And when do we accept the knowledge generated by ears? When the ears do not have any dosha. And so also Shruti will be accepted as pramanam if it doesn't have any dosha. Why does it have no dosha? Apaurushayataya nirdoshena. Since Shruti Vakyas are nirdosha, devoid of any kind of, free from any kind of defects of human intellect, because it is apaurushayam, and therefore it is pramanam. So by calling Shruti nirdosha, apramanya shankavardha Shruti is given up. And secondly, even though the Shruti is pramanam, we have to still determine that the given vakya is swarthe tatparya, that it literally means what it says and not that it has an intention of saying something else. And that is determined by upakramaadilinga. So this upakramaadilinga avadhuta tatparyena, that adjective shows what? Anyaparatvayaho nirasaha. That tattvamasi is anyaparatvam. That tattvamasi as intention in karma and not in revealing the identity, that doubt also is eliminated, because tattvam, the tatparya of the tattvamasi vakya is ascertained by this upakramaadilinga. And therefore also there is no doubt that tattvamasi means what it says. Okay, so apaurushayataya nirdoshena upakramaadilinga avadruta tatparyena cha tattvamasi ityadi vakyena. This vakyena, tattvamasi ityadi vakyena. This and similar vakyas, aham brahmasmi, I am atma brahma, and whatever. So by such statements revealing the identity between Jiva and Brahma, revealing the fact that the one who is taken to be Jiva is in fact Brahma, is limitless. By such vakyena, akartrutva brahmatva bodhanena, says vyadhikaranam trutiya. Even though these two words are in trutiya, two expressions, ityadi vakyena, akartrutva, brahmatva bodhanena. Both of them are in Tritiya. They are not samadhikaranyam. Meaning they do not refer to the same thing. Vyadhikaranam Tritiya. Tathacha. So vakyena, tattvamasi ityadi vakyena. Akartrutva, brahmatva bodhanena. So that bodhanam which is generated by this vakya, that's the idea. Jivasya akartru brahmatva bodhaka agama vakyajanya jnanena ahankarta ityadi pratyakshasya brahmatva nisyayat. Bodhanena, that knowledge is generated. What knowledge is generated? Akartrutva, brahmatva. That Atma is akarta. Atmanah akartrutva bodhanena. Atmanah brahmatva bodhanena vakyena. So by the vakya by which this knowledge is generated, that Atma is akarta, Atma is Brahman. So by this, asya brahmatva nischayat. Asya is what? Asya means ahankarta ityadi pratyakshasya. Even though you directly experience that I am karta, I am bhokta, in as much as that experience contradicts what the Shruti says, therefore we say that even your experience also is a Brahman. Now this is where the Vedanta comes. This is where what we call the Pramanya of the Shruti comes. Why do we say that Shruti is Pramanam? Upanishad is Pramanam, valid means of knowledge. We give it the validity. And we are even willing to accept that we are committing an error. So even though I directly experience that I am a jiva, or I am a man or a woman, since that experience on my part contradicts what Shruti says about me, we say that the Shruti knows more about me than I do, or Shruti knows better about me than I do. This is called Shraddha. And then alone I open my mind to understanding or learning what Shruti says. Otherwise, I'll discard it. Usually we discard all those statements or all those discourses which generally contradict our present conclusions. We discard them. What is Shraddha? That I am willing to discard my conclusion on account of what I am told by the Shruti. This is important. So Shruti says Tattvamasi, you are Brahman. My experience is I am Jiva. Then who is right? I say Shruti is right. And so we cannot say that I am a Jiva is an experience. You can't even say that. We would say that it is an interpretation of an experience, not your experience. We say that even today you are experiencing you are Brahman, but you interpret your experience on account of you are not being able to separate the two elements involved in a given experience. That you are simultaneously experiencing two things. You are experiencing Brahman also and you are experiencing this body also. These two things are simultaneously shining. And on account of not being able to distinguish between them, that one is Pratyak, one is Parak, one is Grahak, Grahya, Grahak, other is Grahya, one is Chit, other is Jada. On account of not being able to experience, not being able to distinguish between these two elements, you are lumping the two elements together and coming to the conclusion that I am Karta. So Aham Karta is a conclusion and not an experience, actually. If actually experience that Atma is a Karta, then nobody can deny that. Even Shruti cannot deny if there is an experience. But Aham Karta is not an experience. I am a Jiva is not it is an interpretation. It's a conclusion that arises because of Anyonyasmin Anyonyatmakatam Tad Dharmamsha Adhyasa means lumping together. We lump together Anyonyatmakata Anyonya Dharma. Aham is one dharmi and Kartrutvam of Buddhi is another dharmi. And Kartrutvam is the dharma of the Buddhi. We superimposed or lumped with Atma, and thus I have this conclusion, Aham Karta, which is not a pratyaksha experience, is not a direct experience, it is only a conclusion of what you are experiencing, because you fail to distinguish or fail to clearly see the different elements that you are experiencing together, and you are not able to separate the different elements, and therefore, on account of lumping these different elements, this conclusion arises. So we don't even accept it as an experience. But since everybody says, we say, alright, it is an experience. But then also, it is wrong. That itself is adhyasa. So, ahankarta vakyajanya jnanena jivasya akartara brahmatva bodhaka agama vakyajanyena jnanena. By the jnana that is generated by the agama vakya, which reveals the identity of Atma as akartara Brahma, ahankarta adi pratyakshasya brahmatmanishayat. That I am karta, this pratyaksha or a direct experience is not prama, it is Brahman. Adhyasa siddhi iti bhavaha. So adhyasa siddhi, on the strength of Shruti, that's all. It's not logical. Now we have given up logic, because Vedantins don't work on logic. They work on Shruti. They have enough logic to dismiss somebody else's logic. But they themselves don't work on logic. What is Vedantins tool? Shruti, Upanishad. And so, Adhyasa Siddhi is not on account of logic, on account of what the Upanishad says. So, whatever we say comes from where? Comes from Shruti. Asya Brahmatmanishayat. Listen, Nacha Jeshta Pratyaksha Virodat Agama Jnanasyeva Vadhayati Vachyam. Now there are two things here. On one hand, my conviction that I am Karta. On the other hand, the Shruti says, you are Brahman. You say that I must dismiss my conclusion that I am Karta. I say that I will dismiss what Shruti says based on what I experience. And after all, my direct experience is the valid means of knowledge. So, Jeshta Pratyaksha Virodhat. This Pratyaksha is called Jeshta Pramanam. We have several Pramana, several means of knowledge. First is what? Pratyaksha, perception. Then is Anumana, inference. Then Arthapatti, presumption. Then Upamana, comparison. Then Anupalabdhi, absence. And then Shabda, the word. Shabda is the last place. Last place because only many people don't accept them therefore. Otherwise it has the first place. But Shabda of course can be twofold. Shabda is the Shabda that we hear. That also is called Shabda. And Shabda also means Shruti. So, by Shabda in general, we gain the knowledge. When somebody gives you a description, when he describes something to you which you so far do not know, then a knowledge takes place in your mind. So, Shabda also is Pramanam, is a means of, that's how physics and chemistry, everything we learn. All of the knowledge comes from what? From Shabda alone. Thank God that physics, chemistry can be also verified in the laboratory and therefore, okay, there's a verification there. But otherwise, most of our knowledge comes from Shabda. There is Bhadrang Karane Bhi Shrunuyamade. Most of our knowledge comes from Karana means Shabda. Even the written word also is Shabda alone actually. Even though you read it by eyes, actually the effect that is created is as though you are hearing them. But anyway, so from this pratyaksha of all this, but all this knowledge depends upon what? Pratyaksha. How? Inference, for example. First is pratyaksha means the perception. Second means of knowledge is inference. Anumana. So what is inference? To infer the presence of fire where you only see smoke. So there you see smoke, you don't see fire. But the knowledge takes place is one of fire. There is fire. This knowledge, understand. What is the nature of this knowledge? Anumanam. It is inferential knowledge. It is knowledge because it's pramanam. However, what is the basis of knowledge? Perception of smoke. If you did not perceive the smoke, you could not have inferred the presence of fire. So behind inference also, what is the basis? Perception is the basis. So pratyaksha comes first. Perception of smoke comes first and then comes the inference of fire. Suppose arthapatti, presumption. Standard illustration. Devdatta grows fat day by day. But he says, I am observing fast in the month of Shravana and still he puts on weight. Then we imagine that this Devdatta must be eating at night. If he is found not to eat during the day, this fellow must be eating at night because he is putting on weight. Still we do not know any mechanism that one can put on weight without eating. Although some people claim, Swamiji, I am putting on weight without eating anything. See, I don't eat anything. So they tell us. And they show also. And still they put on weight. So we have to say there was some other time where this mill must be going on, We have a grinding mill inside. And there people keep it busy, keep on feeding something in there. So after all, some time he must be eating. And that is how person puts on weight. So this is called presumption. You don't see him eating. It is not inference also, because inference requires simultaneous occurrence. You infer the presence of fire when you see the smoke now. Why you don't, while the fellow is eating at night and you assume, you gain that knowledge during the day, and therefore it is called presumption arthapatti. So anyatha anupatti, that his growing fat could not be explained unless he was eating. There is no evidence of his eating. But then this could not be so unless he was eating. This method of gaining knowledge is called arthapatti. But there also perception is involved. You see Devadatta and you see him growing fat, and then how you presume that he must be eating. This is upamanam, comparison. And so they say that is bison, which is an animal you find in America. Bison is like a buffalo. So buffalo we are very familiar with. And then when you go to United States in the forest, suppose you see an animal, then you say, hey, this is bison. How do you say that? Because it is similar to buffalo. So buffalo, you find an animal similar to buffalo, and that's how you say it is bison. But there also, now that is knowledge that this is bison. Except that knowledge again has a basis in perception of buffalo. Understand, perception forms the basis of all other knowledges. So it's called Jeshta Pramana. We'll discuss how perception also becomes the basis of Shabda. For example, Anupalabdhi means absence of something. That there is an absence of a pot in my palm. There also, you imagine a pot in your mind and then negate it. When you say there is no pot or no elephant in my palm, how do you say that? There is an elephant in the mind and then that's negated. Again, perception of elephant comes, and absence of that is what you know. There also perception. There is no gagabugang in my hand, suppose I say. Then you won't be able to appreciate that because you don't know what gagabugang is, whether such an entity is there or not. And so there is no gagabugang in my head. How do you know what I mean by gagabugang? And therefore, that won't generate knowledge. There is no horn in my head, then it's understandable because you know what a horn is, you find an absence of it, and that's how we have the knowledge. So Anupalabdhi also is an important pramanam. That's how people are proven innocent, by Anupalabdhi. You are not able to find any fault in him, therefore you declare him nirdosha. Anyway, and then we come to Shabda. Shabda means words. They are also pramanam. How? If I give you the description of a certain thing, of Grand Canyon, let us say. I describe to you how Grand Canyon is, how that the river, Colorado River, is a mile deep, and there is a gorge 1 mile deep, and how these streams of water constantly flow from all the directions, and how they keep on chopping off or erode the earth, and how there were big mounds, and how each mound looks, how one mound looks like a head of Lord Shiva, Jata of Lord Shiva, and how other one looks like Brahmaji meditating there. Then from this description, you get some picture of Grand Canyon. Now you know something that you did not know so far. So Shabda also becomes a means of knowledge. However, even words enable you to create in your mind a picture about something when? There also the perception is the basis. When I say the one mound looks like the matted lock of Lord Shiva, then at least you must have seen the matted lock of Lord Shiva. Then you can imagine how a mound must be looking like. You know what a river is, and when I say there is a river, now we know Narmada flowing on the surface. Or you mean Narmada in some places flowing maybe 100 feet or 200 feet deep. You can imagine how a river must be when it flows a mile deep. You've seen Ganges, the Himalayas flowing half a mile or a mile deep. Then you can imagine some kind of an idea can come how panoramic that view must be, how many square miles it covers, how many mounds are there, and what a beautiful panoramic view is. When the description is given, then some picture of this Grand Canyon is formed in the mind. Except that picture also depends upon perception. And therefore, all the knowledge that we have, understand, is directly or indirectly based on perception. So if we did not have these organs of perception, we could not gain any knowledge at all. Suppose I don't have eyes, I have never seen anything. So when you keep on describing to me certain things, then I will not have any knowledge at all because there is no impression in my, I cannot build a mental picture. So even Shabda also has its basis in what? Perception or pratyaksha. So it is said that suppose what I describe contradicts what you have seen. Suppose it's Shabda or Anumana or Upamana or Arthapatti, if any of those things contradict what you perceive, then which one will you accept? Perception will be accepted and all those things will be negated. I say, hey, there is fire. I know there is no fire, I am just coming from there. No, there is fire, I see. There is no fire. I see the smoke. Then we say, since I know that there is no fire, and still we see the smoke, then we perhaps find that maybe it is not smoke, it is water vapor that is creating the appearance of smoke, but there is no real smoke. Then we will know where the fallacy is involved in inference. So wherever any knowledge contradicts perception, then we will accept perception because that's the most valid ground, and we will discard all the other forms of knowledge, whether it is inference or artha presumption or shabda. And what is Veda? Shruti is also what? Shabda alone. What is Upanishad? Shabda Rashi. Nothing but a collection of words. Now Shabda says Tattvamasi, that thou art, you are Brahma. What is my perception? I am Jiva. So he says, well, I would say that if what Upanishad says contradicts what I perceive, then I will discard the Upanishad because it is only Shabda Pramanam, and Shabda also is based on what? It is only based on perception. It says, Jyeshtha Pratyaksha Virodha Agamasya Badaha iti. Agama means this Shastra. We say that since Shastra or the Agama, it contradicts what I perceive. Therefore I would say that Shastra is wrong. Because Jyeshtha Pratyaksha Virodha. Pratyaksha means Jyeshtha Pramanam. Jyeshtha means what? The most senior or most important. Jyeshtha means primary, the first one. Jyeshtha can mean elder, meaning which occurs first, or Jyeshtha can mean that which is most important, or the principal. So principal is, this Pratyaksha is the first Pramanam, meaning it is a thing that occurs first, and every other Pramanam everything draws its existence from perception. Inference could not be unless perception were there, and even Shabda could not be unless perception were there. Even Vedas also could not give any knowledge unless you had known things. If Veda asks us to perform a certain yaga, and then there will be a description that bring 39 bricks and then assemble them or arrange them in a certain manner. But what's a brick? You must know what a brick is. What is meant by arranging? That you should know. Arrange them in a square, then you must know what a square is. Let there be 3 layers. You must know what 3 is, and you must know what a layer is. So even for you to gain the knowledge from what the Vedas say, the perception must be there. Even Einstein cannot communicate ideas unless he uses words, and unless those words are known to us. Suppose I use words which are not known to us, well, it doesn't convey any knowledge at all. That's why scientists and many people have a lot of difficulty in expressing their ideas, because they know something which they do not know how to express. So that's how the whole branch of mathematics came, to be able to express ideas or concepts which cannot immediately be expressed in words, but which can be conceptualized, and you can see that concept in your mind. But anyway, for seeing concept also, something must be there, perception. You can't form a concept unless some perceptual understanding is there. Even to form the concept of a principle which is unknown to you so far, the present perception or present knowledge forms a basis, and you modify the present form of knowledge to arrive at a principle which is not known to you so far. In any case, pratyaksha or the perception always forms a basis, including in the knowledge of what the Vedas have to say. So they say pratyaksham is jyeshtha pramanam. And there are fellows who accept only perception and nothing else. Who are they? Charvakas, the materialists. And the second fellow is Nayyayika, accept inference. They accept perception and inference. They don't accept anything else. Your Vedas also, if they conform to what we infer or perceive, we'll accept the Vedas. Otherwise we won't accept them. So here is a battle now. He says, Jyeshtha Pratyaksha Virodat Agamasyeva Badha iti. Since your Agama or the Shastra contradicts what we perceive, therefore we say that the Shastra is wrong and I am right. Iti na vachyam. Don't say this. Why? Dehatmavada prasangat. Because you will accept so many things. If you say that you will accept your perception, then you will have to swallow a pill which will be very difficult to swallow. Why? Dehatmavada prasangat. Just as you say that you are a karta, you are a bhokta, you are a jiva, so also you are saying you are a human, you are a man, you are a woman. All of that you are saying. Will you accept that also? So he says, Manushyoham iti pratyaksha virodhena atha ayam ashariraha ityadi shrutya deha anyatma asiddhehe. Fortunately, we are talking to people of some sense, otherwise you can't say anything. Charvakas will not accept anything. Stark materialists who simply take the body as Atma, you can't argue with them. People are so gross, For arguing, also some kind of a sophistication is required. You can't argue with them. Okay, Baba, you will come to know it after some time. You go ahead with what you are thinking. Hopefully, someday sense will arise in you. We don't know how to communicate with people when they don't have intelligence. There is a difficulty. And so, here also, if there is a stark materialist who takes body alone as Atma, we have to just say nothing. Okay, Baba, you are right. But at least we are talking to people who are sensible. And they do have some respect for the Shruti and inference, etc. And therefore, none of them accepts this body as Atma, fortunately. Everybody accepts, Naiyayikas accept, Mimamsakas accept, Vaisheshikas accept that Atma is different from body. That much they accept, fortunately. That being the case, if there is an occasion when they have to accept that body is Atma, then they will not accept. So we also have a direct experience. What? Manushyoham. I am a man, I am a human being. That is how I take myself different from a cow, So how do we behave differently? For example, when I see a human being, my response is of one kind. When I see a cow, response is of another kind. When I see a dog, response is of a third kind. I may avoid a dog if it looks ferocious. I may avoid a cow if it looks little threatening. And I may go ahead and walk even when human being is there because he is not threatening to me. So I have this knowledge in me, I am a human being. That is why my response will be different. When I see a cow, you will see a different response on my mind and on my face. It's evident on the face. When I see another human being, response is evident. And my response itself shows that there is this knowledge in me that I am a human being. So that is also pratyaksha or a direct experience. So just as there is a direct experience that I am a karta, I am bhokta, I am ignorant, so also there is an equally direct experience that I am a human being. So if you say that aham karta, aham bhokta, aham jiva, that is true, or on the strength of that perceptual experience you want to discard what the Shruti says, then on the strength of this experience that I am a human being, you will have to discard what the Shruti says and you will have to accept that as a Brahma and you will have to accept that your body is Atma. You yourself will not accept. Why? Because very often you say, look at my body. What has happened to it? You yourself contradict yourself. There is something wrong in my hand, Now say there is something wrong with my hand. And when I hit you here, why do you hit me? I hit your hand, I didn't hit you. But then you say, why did you hit me? So when you actually hit the hand, and when I say, why do you hit me? That means, I am the hand. So sometimes I say that this is my hand, establishing thereby the difference between I and my hand. And sometimes I say, I am the hand. That shows that you are contradicting. Anyway, in perception also there are so many contradictions. But you yourself claim yourself not to be the body. But if every perception is taken to be real, then you will have to accept Deha as Atma. So Deha Atmavada Prasanga, that was said earlier. prasangam eva upapadati manushya. And therefore, manushya pratyaksha virodena atha ayam ashariraha. Brahadharanya says atha ayam ashariraha. Then his atma is ashariraha. Who is atma? Ashariraha, bodiless atma. So this is what Upanishad clearly says, ashariram sharireshu. In the body, that is what we call the bodiless. So Chandogya says ashariraha. This atma is what? Ashariraha. So all of these Shrutis which clearly reveal the Atma to be different with body, you will have to discard all those Shrutis and accept the Atma as body because you have the experience that you are the body. And then you will have to accept Dehatma Vada, meaning Deha is the Atma, that Vada of the Charvakas you also will have to accept. But fortunately they don't accept that. They themselves they have created enough arguments to dismiss the Charvakas. Dehatma, Didi Shrutya, Deha, Anyatma, Asiddhehe. This Shruti proves that Atma is different from Deha. And your perception says, Aham Deha. It proves Atma to be not different from Deha. Then if you accept perception as your valid means of knowledge, then you cannot accept that Atma is different from Deha. Then all Karma Kanda has to be given up. Who will perform Agnihotra today to get pleasure in heavens? Nobody will do. Bhasmibhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutaha. When this body is turned reduced to ashes, who is going to return? So dehatmada prasanga. Since that prasanga or the occasion is not acceptable to Purva Pakshi also, therefore we have shown first flaw, that perception is not always reliable. So Ratnavara continues, tasmad idam rajatam, that idam, that the quotation mark should be idam rajatam, not tasmat. So tasmat, then idam rajatam itivat samanadikaranya pratyakshasya brahmatva shanka kalankitasya na agamat prabalyam iti asthayam sudhibihi vibhavaniyam. This is what the intelligent people have to accept this. What? Idam rajatam, where in fact there is only shell. And what do we say? This is silver. Idam rajatam. That also is pratyaksha jnanam, isn't it? Where you see silver, where in fact there is only mother of pearl, that knowledge also is what? Perceptual knowledge. Will you accept it? He says, Brahmatva Shanka Kalankitam. But that knowledge, there is Brahma. So there is Brahma in there. Brahmatva Shanka Kalankitam. There is always Shanka that this may be Brahma. And so this particular perception that this is silver, which knowledge has kalanka or this blemish, that it could very well be a Brahma. It could be Prama also. Not that every time you see silver that there is no silver there. But it can happen very well that where you see silver, in fact there is no silver in there. That knowledge or perception that this is silver is something that is endowed with the defect or blemish of it being the Brahma or a delusion. Itivat samanadikaranya pratyakshasya. There is samanadikaranyam. There is seeing of two things in one location, idam and rajatam. Actually, idam could be different from rajatam. Idam could be same as rajatam. Idam could very well be different from rajatam. That they also accept that people do commit error. That is accepted by them. That you do commit the error. And so, therefore, any pratyaksha is like this. Just as idam rajatam can be Brahma or Prama, and therefore whatever is pratyaksham is of that nature. Idam rajatam is pratyaksham. It could be, there can be Shanka there. Either it is Brahma or Prama. Wherever pratyaksha is, there is always Shanka, whether it is Brahma or Prama. Because what can be proven with one illustration applies everywhere. Idam rajatam, this is silver is what? Is pratyaksham. This is silver. This is a perceptual knowledge. However, that knowledge can be true or it can be false also. Therefore, wherever pratyaksha is, there is always a doubt whether it is true or false. So every pratyaksha is what? Brahmatva Shanka Kalankitasya Pratyakshasya. Every pratyaksha or perception is always kalankitam, is always endowed with this kind of a blemish, that it can be Brahma or Prama, just as idam rajatam could be Brahma or Prama. Idivat samanadhikaranya pratyakshasya. Wherever there is samanadhikaranyam in pratyaksham, idam rajatam, wherever two things are seen in one location, aham karta is samanadikaranyam also. So this pratyaksha or perceptual knowledge involving samanadikaranya, meaning seeing two things in one location, there is always a question whether it is Brahma or Brahma. And therefore, that pratyaksha, which is shanka kalankitam, can never be considered to be prabalam, cannot be considered to be stronger than what? Agama, which is what? Apurushetaya nirdosham. Agama is what? Nirdosham. There is no kalanka of shanka. Shanka is one of the defects here. Ajnanam, samshaya, viparyaya, so patutva karanam, all the karana apatutvam, all of these are the defects, of which shanka is one of them. Shanka or the doubt is one of the difficulties of human intellect. But what the Shruti says is free from this. And therefore, this pratyaksha, which is shanka kalankitam, cannot be said to be more important or prabalam, stronger than the agama, which is devoid of shanka. In the asthayam, this word, so you better think. And so, says the Purnanda on the page 29, Tasmadit Dehatmada Prasanga. Since there will be Dehatmada Prasanga, meaning there will be this occasion of having to accept the Dehatmada Prasangad Ubhayavadi Siddhasya Manusyohamidi Samanadikaranya Pratyakshasya Yatha Brahmatvam. Everybody says, Aham Manusya is Brahma. Nayayika, who is our opponent right now, he also accepts Aham Manusya, meaning I am man or I am human, is a Brahma. And we also say it is Brahma. So, Ubhayavadi Siddhasya. Both Vadis or both the contenders accept. When both the contenders accept, then it becomes Drashtanta. In inference, what is called illustration? Ubhayavadi Siddham Drashtantam. Yatra yatra dhumaha tatra tatra vannihi yatha mahanase. So mahanasa means a big kitchen. In a small kitchen you may not find it, but mahanasa is a big kitchen. And so just as in a big kitchen we find that smoke is only when the fire is, and then also you find it in many other places that where the smoke is there only when the fire is. Therefore wherever the fire is, wherever the smoke is, there must be fire. This is accepted of both the Vadis. Otherwise you can't proceed with the inference. So yatha mahanasa just as in a kitchen. So that illustration of kitchen is accepted by both, and then alone it can be presented as a drishtanta, as an illustration, from which we arrive at darshtanta, that which is illustrated. So drishtanta is that which is accepted by both the Vadis. Here also manusyoham, that I am human, this is Brahma, that this is a false conclusion, is accepted both by the Tarkikas as well as by Vedantis. Therefore, Manusyoham becomes a Drashtanta. For what? Pratyaksha. So, Manusyoham is Samanadikaranya Pratyakshasya Yatha Brahmatvam. And that knowledge what? Aham Manushya, where Aham and Manusya, both of them are in the same Adhikaran. And therefore, Yatha Brahman. What is Samanadikaranya? Is Abhedena Anvaya Bodhakam Samanadikaranyam. That which shows Abhedena Anvaya. That Aham Manushya shows Abheda between Aham and Manushya. And so just as this Aham Manushya is the Pratyakshasya Brahmatvam. Samanadikaranya Pratyakshasya Yatha Brahmatvam. Just as this particular Pratyaksha is Brahma. Tatha Ahankarta Ityadi Pratyakshasya Brahmatvam Asthayam. And similarly also Ahamkarta also is a concept similar to Aham Manushya. And so, just as that is Brahma, this also is Brahma. Iti Brahmaswarupatvena Siddhasya Adhyasasya Sakshi Pratyakshatmaka Bhana Sambhavat Abhanam Ayuktam iti Bhava. And therefore, this Adhyas of nature Ahamkarta is something that is established as Sakshi Pratyaksha, something evident to everybody. And therefore, you cannot say that this Adhyasa is not a matter of experience. Adhyasa, Ahankarta is an Adhyasa, like Aham Manushya, and this Ahankarta is an evident thing to the Sakshi, and therefore, you cannot claim ignorance to that. You can claim ignorance to something by saying, I have not seen it. But thought is something you cannot claim ignorance to, because thought is evident to the Sakshi. You see? If this Adhyasa had something to be determined from perception, then you can claim to be ignorant. But this Sakshi Pratyaksham, Aham Karta. So also these values there are certain values of Sakshi Bhasya. There are certain values which are to be educated. How to behave, how to talk, how to walk, etc. So these are the values which are imparted by education. But that I don't want to be hurt is a value that is known to Sakshi. You don't have to educate anybody. That I don't want to be lied to. I don't want someone to tell me lie. Sakshi Bhasyam. I don't want that somebody should insult me. Sakshi Bhasyam. Pratyaksham. So nobody can claim ignorance to something that is directly known. You can say that I was not educated as a child and therefore I do not know a particular behavioral pattern. You can claim. Why are you eating in a funny manner? That is how I was taught in the childhood. You can say. But that when I am hungry that I eat, that Sakshi Bhasyam, and therefore one cannot claim ignorance to that which is evident. Every vritti is something that is illumined by the Sakshi. Aham Karta also is a vritti, which is the nature of Adhyasa, also is Sakshi Bhasyam. Therefore nobody can claim ignorance to Adhyasa because Sakshi Pratyakshatmaka Bhan Sambhavat Abhanam Ayuktam iti bhava. Adhyasasya Abhanam Ayuktam. That Adhyasa is not something directly evident, that cannot be said. And further, you said Pratyaksham is what? Jeshtham. It was said earlier. This was his argument. Jeshtham Pratyaksha Virodhat Agamasyeva Badha. Since Agama or the Shruti contradicts the Pratyaksha with the Jeshtham, which is the primary one or the first one, therefore we say that Shruti is wrong. Alright, when you say Jeshtha Pratyaksha, when Pratyaksha or perception is called Jeshtha, Jeshtha means the eldest or the principal one. It says Ratnapura Kincha Jeshthatvam Purvabhavitvam va Agmajnanam Prati Upajivyatvam va. What do you mean by Jeshthatvam? Purvabhavitvam. Who is the Jeshtha, in our family? Jet means what? Jeshtha. Means what? Who is elder one? And who is born first? Therefore is called Jeshtha. And so, Jeshthatvam is what? Purvabhavitvam. When you say Pratyaksha is Jestham, is it because Purvabhavitvam? Because it takes place first? It is true. We have shown that perception must take place first and then alone any other means of knowledge will become means of knowledge only when perception is first take. So, Jeshthatva means being preceded. Every other form of knowledge must be preceded by perception of one kind or the other. So, by Jeshthatvam do you mean Purvabhavitvam, meaning that this Pratyaksha occurs first? Is it why you call him Jeshtha? Or Agavajnanam Prati Upajivyatvam va? Says Purananda, Purvabhavitvam, Purvakala Vrittitvam. Vrittitvam means occurrence. Purvakala Vrittitvam means that which occurs first. Is one aspect, one meaning of Jeshthatvam. Or Upajivyatvam means Hetutvam. Upajiva means cause. That Pratyaksha becomes a cause for revealed knowledge also. Pratyaksha occurs first and then alone other forms of knowledge occur. Or Pratyaksha or perception becomes a cause for the rest of the knowledge. Meaning even by the knowledge that we gain by Shabda, the Pratyaksha must be there, that becomes the basis for other forms of knowledge. So you say that Pratyaksha is Jeshtha because it occurs first or because it forms the basis for every other knowledge. What is your meaning of Jeshtha? Adyena Pravalyam. Just because a fellow occurs first does not mean he is right. Just because somebody said first or somebody is elder doesn't make him right. Adyena Pravalyam. Jesthasyavi Rajata Brahmasya Paschad Bhavina Shukti Jnanena Bhadadarshana. So idam rajatam, you say this is silver. That's what perception. And that perception is occurred first. So if Purvabhavitvam becomes Prabalam, Purvabhavitvam becomes the cause for Pravalyam, then anything that is Purvabhavi or anything that occurs first must be considered to be stronger than what occurs later. But it's not necessarily so because here is the knowledge, this is silver. When you go closer and pick up that object, then you find that, oh, this is only a shell. then that knowledge, this is silver, which occurred first, is nevertheless negated by subsequent knowledge. This is silver, is negated by the knowledge, this is a shell. And so, purva bhavitvam, not necessarily pravalatvam. That which occurs first is not necessarily stronger or more powerful than what occurs later. What occurs later can negate what occurred first. In fact, in case of knowledge, it is always like that. What we know today invariably falsifies or improves upon, negates what occurred earlier. Otherwise, what Newton said will become the law of laws, and whatever later on people say will not be. But that's not so. And so, what a scientist says later is accepted first. So, Mahatma Gandhi used to say, many people used to point out contradictions in statements. But you said this earlier and now you are saying this. He says, whatever occurs later is praman. And so if you find a contradiction between what I say now and what I said earlier, accept what I say now. And therefore, purva bhavitvam is no cause or is not a criterion for strength or pravalyam. So, adyena pravalyam pratyakshasya. So, it is purva bhavitvasya na pravalyam. That's all. Anywhere is purva bhavi is not necessarily pravalam. Why? Jeshtasyavi rajata brahmasya pasyat bhavina shukti jnanina bhadadarshanaad. Purva bhavina rajata brahmasya. So, purva bhavasya rajata brahmasya. So, pasyat bhavina shukti jnanina bhadadarshanaad. So, this rajata brahma which occurred first is nevertheless falsified by the knowledge of shuktika, and therefore that which is purva bhavi is not necessarily pravalam. So your pratyaksha may be purva bhavi, all right. But then just because it is purva bhavi, you cannot say it is pravalam. Saying it is pratyaksha is a cause. Or upajivya, it becomes a ajivika. Upon that alone everything sustains. Upajivyatva means what? That which sustains. So upajivya is ajivika. Something that sustains my life. So perception is something that sustains every other praman. And therefore, is it why the perception should be considered stronger than the pramanas? So that point also is discussed. We'll see it now on Monday. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Harashchata Shabdasya Bhavetau Brahmana Pura Kantham Vittva Vidiryatau Tasman Mangalika Uvau. Om Ata Om Ata Om Ata. Saraswat Pratyay Gocharayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tamah Prakashavad Viruddha Svabhavayoho Itaretara Bhavanupatau Siddhayam Tadharmanam Sūtram Itaretara Bhavanupapattihi Ityatah Asmat Pratyay Gochare Vishayini Chidatmake Yushmat Pratyay Gocharasya Vishayasya Tadharmanancha Adhyasah Mithyet Bhavitum Yuktam Tadviparyayena Vishayinah Tadharmanancha Vishaye Adhyasah Mithyet Bhavitum Yuktam Tathapi Anyonyasmin Anyonyatmakatam Anyonyadharmamscha Adhyasya Itaretara Vivekena Atyanta Viviktayoho Dharmadharminoho मिथ्या ज्ञान निमित्तः सत्यानृते मिथुनीकृत्य अहमिदम् ममेदम् इति नैसर्गिकोऽयं लोकव्यवहारः। Now the question that is being discussed here is whether there is abhanam of adhyasa or not, meaning whether adhyasa, superimposition of atma upon the anatma and vice versa, whether it is a matter of experience or not. Purvapakshi of course means to say that there is no adhyasa, that the kind of sense that we have, aham karta, aham manushya, or aham karta, aham ajna. So this is actually prama. This is truth. It is not Brahma. As Siddhantin, the Vedantin wants to say, this is Brahma. Only when we can show that it is Brahma, that we can show there is ignorance. And then we can show that